and welcome. Welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. My name is Beth Bergen and I'm a global leadership and communication coach. The thing that I do and that I love to do is I help executives and managers and business owners influence in all areas of their work and their lives through improving their leadership and communication skills. And what that means is that they can lead really cohesive teams. They can also drive the kind of results that they're looking for. And importantly, they become more visible in their own organization, not only in their organization, but potentially in their networks and definitely in their industry. And I'm actually here live most Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is 2 p.m. in Sydney and Melbourne, where they're on Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Now, what are we talking about today? I'm wondering, I want to start with a question for you. Have you ever softened a message because you didn't want to upset someone? I reckon you probably have, because I certainly know that I have. Or maybe what you've done is you've firmed up your message because you wanted to let people know they couldn't muck with you. You meant business. I've done that as well. And I reckon that a number of you will have done it, because what we need to kind of get comfortable with is the fact that our leadership is an intentional kind of thing. And it's all about that self-awareness, that knowing yourself so that you can speak with purpose and you can lead without shrinking a whole lot, and definitely without steamrolling over the top of other people. So today what we're going to be exploring is this standing in authority. Standing in authority with that leadership intelligence, which is like a combination of grace with clarity and also with that emotional intelligence. And there are 7 key topic areas that I'm going to have a look at. The first one is this one. Too soft versus too strong. Now, you might have heard, start as you mean to continue. Now, I'm going to put that out there now, but I'm going to come back to that. Why might we be too soft? We're often too soft because we have a strong desire to be liked. We want to please others. We often start too strong because maybe we've got a little bit of imposter syndrome here. Perhaps we don't think that we should have been given the role. Maybe we're even now leading people that we worked beside. So we're wanting to put our stamp on it. We're wanting to push our way into things because we're new in the role. The really interesting thing is whether you're too soft or whether you're too strong, both of those impact on the trust and the rapport that you're able to develop with your team. And they also impact on the clarity, the way in which you provide the information for the message. Now, let's come back to that saying, start as you mean to continue. The awesome thing about starting as you mean to continue is that you're probably hitting things in the middle, which means that if you need to, it's not too big a step to be able to toughen up, and it's not too big a step to be able to ease off a bit. Being fair and firm is really what starting as you mean to continue is all about. It's much easier to grow a little bit, to change things a little bit, much easier on you and much easier on your team. So have a think about where you sit in that. Are you being too aggressive and too direct? Are you disempowering people? Too soft versus too strong. Are you doing everything because that's what others want and not necessarily what you want? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, in order for you to be an unapologetic leader and to demonstrate your authority, you need to not apologize for your style, but think about improving it instead. There's a lot of fears that are associated with being a leader and leading others. Maybe we're going to be disliked. Maybe people will judge us. Maybe they'll misunderstand what I'm trying to do. And what I would really encourage you to do is to ask for feedback. So ask for that feedback rather than apologizing all the time. Others say, oh, sorry, I mucked that up. Oh, sorry, that wasn't clear. Because what that does is it actually dilutes your authority. And in order for you to be a successful leader, you're going to need to have some authority. So if your style isn't gelling, if it's not working for you, this is when it can be a really good idea to get yourself a coach or a mentor, someone who will give you feedback about your style so that you can identify what are your strengths and what are potential areas for you to improve your authority as a leader. The third thing is this: influence comes with consistency. You can be real whiz bang and maybe everyone goes, oh, aren't they awesome? I love them. But consistency is what builds that influence, because when you are managing your emotions, when you've got your own emotional regulation happening, you're steady. You're demonstrating a quiet confidence. It doesn't have to be high volume, high intensity. It doesn't have to be loud. I think there's a gorgeous quote around never assuming that loud is strong. Don't assume that loud is strong and quiet is weak. It's about making the decisions and being consistent, because that's where the influence will come. People will start to understand that this is the approach that you would take to whatever is happening as a leader. And when you're consistent all the time, they won't need to come to you and ask about what you would do or what you think about something, because your consistency has demonstrated to them this is how you would do it. They get to know that. Yeah? Never ever assume that loud is strong and quiet is weak. Okay, number 4 we're looking at now. Clarity is a real superpower of your leadership. It is your leadership superpower. And this is all about being clear really consistently. This is about how, when you're clear, you build that certainty amongst your team. So this clarity is quite closely connected with consistency that we were just talking about. So when you're communicating with clarity, when you're demonstrating clarity and clarity of thought, you prevent that confusion. You prevent rework often, which is a massive waste of time. And you also prevent that resentment and frustration from rising up. And that's really important if you're going to maintain a positive culture in your team. When I talk about clarity, what I mean is communicating without all of that fluff. Now, often we put the fluff in when we're trying to please people, when we're concerned about being liked. We figure, oh, well, if I put the fluff in and I justify what I want to say, we talked about this a whole lot in the last couple of weeks. If I justify it all, it'll be okay. No, cut the fluff, come back to talking about what it is that you want and what you expect, what you require with clarity. Number 5, it's really important for you, if you're going to lead unapologetically with some authority, it's really clear to me that what you need to do is learn how to be respectfully firm. Now, this is often difficult for people because they're in that people pleaser, or they don't want to have the difficult conversations. So what it's important for you to understand is that you can be warm and decisive at the same time. And that's easier if what you do is you set and adhere to consistent boundaries, because of that consistent boundary creates psychological safety for people. Now, you're the leader. Your title gives you this additional responsibility. So what that means is that there are certain behaviors, there are certain things that you can be doing and saying that sit firmly in your role, but that don't mean that you should be making jokes about all sorts of controversial subjects with your team when everybody should be working. So think about those boundaries and apply them to your language, to the kind of conversations you have, to the behaviors that you will tolerate and that you expect, and the behaviors that you demonstrate yourself. When you are like that, it's much easier to comfortably own your own style and own your own behavior. When you're happy, when your self-awareness is such that you can acknowledge, hey, I'm happy to be kind, I'm happy to be direct here, I'm happy to be decisive, I'll be warm. When you own that style, then people can't judge you for it, because you're letting everyone know this is how I am. It's also important here that what you do in order to learn how to be respectful and firm, that you're building your skills in communication. So again, I come back to what we spoke about earlier, which is ask for that feedback. Ask for feedback so you know what's happening. Okay, number 6. You can influence, a lot of people don't realize this, you can influence through respect and empathy. Now, what we know is that people follow leaders who respect them, rather than those who dominate them all the time, rather than those who disempower them all the time. And this strength of respecting people is multiplied, is absolutely amplified when it's paired with empathy. Now, when I'm working with my coaching clients and I talk to them about this in terms of their leadership, lots of them will say to me, but, I don't want to empathize with them, because that makes it look like I'm agreeing with them, like I'm condoning whatever their behavior is, and I just don't condone it. That's why I remind them, and I want to remind you today, empathy doesn't mean that you agree with someone or their actions or their beliefs. You're simply empathizing. You're putting yourself in their shoes and imagining how it might be for them. It doesn't mean that you agree with them. So, some of the leaders that I coach will say to me, oh, Beth, that makes, when you ask me to empathize, that makes me feel as though I'm weakening my position because I agree with them. I'll come back to being warm and fair, or being warm and deliberate that we talked about, being warm and, being warm and decisive, being respectfully firm. when you are bringing empathy to the table along with respect, it makes it much easier for you to be warm and decisive, for you to be respectfully firm. Yeah. So let's look now at some strategies that you can use straight away to develop this unapologetic leadership. I've got 3 that I'd like to share with you today. And the first one is this: lead with a clear opener. So state what it is that you're looking to do. Here's what I want us to focus on today. There it is. Boom, out there. Now, this doesn't mean that you haven't had some conversation about, oh, hi, how are you? Good to see you. However, as the leader, particularly if it's your meeting, you set the tone. So while it's wonderful to say hi to people and welcome, it's also really important that you have a clear opening into whatever the conversation is about, whether it's a one-on-one meeting or whether you're speaking to a group of people. So lead, state, this is what we're here to do. Yeah. What follows on from there is looking to start the meeting on time. Because if what you always do is start 5 or 7 minutes after the meeting was supposed to start, the lesson that you're teaching people is, I can be a bit late and it's not going to matter. Respect and value everybody's time by leading with that opener, with that clear opener, and starting on time. The second thing, I've kind of given you a second one, which is start on time. But the second one is learn to appreciate what's happening and what might happen rather than apologizing all the time. Now, we've talked a lot in these sessions about how we apologize for ourselves. And one of the things that we'll often say is, sorry for not being direct. Turn that around in your mind so that you're appreciating something about the other person rather than apologizing for you. So rather than saying sorry for being direct, it would be more appropriate to say, thank you for being open to clarity. Thank you for asking such awesome questions, or something like that. Okay? Unapologetic. This is who I am. I'm getting better at doing this as a leader. The third thing for you to have a look at is this. Start checking to see if your messages are grounded, if they're kind, if they're clear. And I've always found, working with my clients, that a great way to do this is to use the firm, fair, and friendly kind of framework. What do I mean by that? If you're using firm, fair, and friendly, then what it comes down to is that you're providing, as a leader, strong guidance, but you're doing it with impartiality. You're doing it with respect. You're being consistent. You're giving honest feedback, and you're leading with integrity. Yeah? Firm, fair, friendly. Think about that framework. I love that one because, it kind of, how does this apply at different times during any conversation that I'm going to be having? Okay, some reflection questions. Now, these are designed to make you start to really think, what is it? What is it that I can take out of this leadershipization with Beth today? So the first one is this. What situations, just reflect on this, what situations trigger you? Which are the ones that make you shrink? Smaller than, I'm moving back into that imposter and pleasing people zone? Or which ones make you sharper or tougher or much more direct than you might have intended? Now, the reason for figuring out this and reflecting on it is because if you reflect on it, then you're going to know this is what I need to look out for in the future. This is what I need to look out for to see what's going on. What's going on for me, what's going on for others, and why it triggers me. The second question is this: how comfortable are you providing clarity without all the cushions, without all the fluff, without all the justification? How comfortable are you with being clear without all of that kind of stuff? Because if you're not comfortable without that cushioning, without the soft landing, without the extra support, without the being over friendly or over justifying, that's a weakness for you, and that's an area that you can really start to develop. Yeah. Third thing is this. Oh, I love these boundary questions. What boundaries could you enforce more consistently, which would help you as a leader? What boundaries could you enforce more consistently? So this is things like, okay, maybe I can be making sure that everybody is packed up and left at the end of the day. Maybe I can make sure that we are only taking 15 minutes for a break. Maybe I can make sure that every single meeting starts and finishes on time so that people can get on with their day. Maybe that's a boundary that people know and get to respect about me. Yeah. Now, again, what this does is it helps you to identify, am I demonstrating? Am I living the boundaries that I actually have? And if I'm not living mine, how can I expect others to live theirs? So, in summary, calm, clear, and consistent leadership is going to have the most influence. You can lead with authority and with empathy, and those two things together will make you a better leader. And finally, clarity. When you give me clarity, when I give you clarity, that is an absolute sign of respect. And as a leader, and as a tool to go in your leadership intelligence toolbox, making sure that you're respecting others, big tick next to that one. It's something that you need to be working on. So thank you so much for joining us today. Questions and comments below in the platform that you're watching this on. Hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. And a reminder, leadership intelligence is all around, I build it all around 3 pillars: improving and really developing awesome communication skills, self-accountability and the skills to hold others accountable, and building that authority. And these things really contribute to your leadership intelligence and to your ability to influence. And where does it all start? It starts with communication skills. Now, if you want to join or you want to hear more about my Say It Smarter program, which is all about, it's a 30-day program to build rapport, to build your communication skills and your influence, please reach out. Check below and we'll make sure that there's a link there for you to actually just call me. I'm not going to hassle you and do a big hard sales pitch on you. I'm just going to have a conversation with you about where you could improve your leadership, your communication, and really importantly, your influence and your authority. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye now.